So welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Praxis Gathering. Praxis, of course, is the applied part of the scientific theory, and we're taking this out into the world, and we're going to report back on how does that work. We are literally working with the emergent. It's very exciting to hear from our nesting ambassadors once they're out there on how is that working out for you. I am so thrilled to have Katherine Cays with us today, and we're going to be hearing from her after the announcements and after our introductions. So, and if you've had a chance to listen to her recorded meditations for us, they are beautiful. So welcome, Katherine, and thank you so much for being here with us.
I just, being here and being present with you all and hearing everything that you are doing, I can only be hopeful that I can share something that might interface with all of the things that you are doing in your own work. I just want to say that I understand the Evolved Nest as a caregiving environment. So we're here and we're working in community, and we're integrating the Evolved Nest science and a kinship worldview into nature-assisted expressive arts therapy is my field. I understand that this is something that Darsha explains as extra genetic inheritance, this caregiving environment. And that is that in addition to classical genetic inheritance through our parents, we also inherit through other channels that influence how those genes are used or expressed, or how we grow up and how we learn. And this is what gets transmitted culturally and socially and environmentally. And it starts when we are born, but it evolves across the lifespan, and it is malleable, and it is changeable and able to grow. So in my practice as a therapist, every session begins with a welcoming social climate, with the question of what kind of nest will we co-create here right now, being in the present moment. And I invite the land, the more than human community, and the client to co-author that answer. Invite people into gentle arrivals and a breath and sensory attunement and presence, so their nervous systems can cross the threshold slowly rather than being dropped into doing therapy. So this kind of arrival is a kind of rebirth that where we let the body show what it needs, and we let the land be the first voice that we listen to. And this can relate to how we birth, and as mothers with babies, and at the beginning of something, at the beginning of life. I understand multiple nurturers very literally, whereas I am one caregiver in the room, but not the only one. The trees and birds and stones and the wind and water, they are also present in the space. And I speak about them as active relatives and not scenery. So we were talking about, or I was sharing about multiple nurturers being present in the session, in the room, or in outside spaces. So when a client leans against a tree or holds a stone in their palm, or or walks barefoot on sand, I invite them to notice how their body responds with that contact, and what quality of care from the natural living world that is being offered. So, in this way, touch becomes safe and consensual. This contact with earth and the elements rather than exclusively human to human. The holding is shared. In a responsive relationship, the component is a pattern that my clients can adapt to in their daily lives, that we work from within the session. And it begins with their relations inside of themselves, and how we might have conversations, and that voice that is inside our own brain that tells us things. So then when we address that from an internal space, we can move out to loved ones and community. And it becomes a practice of listening and to be open to noticing subtle shifts in breath, in posture, in eye contact, things that we are moving toward, things that we are moving away from. And then we learn to adjust the pacing accordingly. So if our system, for instance, begins to tighten, we might consciously invite the breath to calm the nervous system, the fight or flight response via the vagus nerve. So this reduces stress hormones and influences the emotional processing. So if curiosity and play start to emerge, we widen the invitation with more movement, more space to explore, maybe more color, maybe move from in creating and art making, from using markers, which are very controlled, to using watercolor, which is much more loose. I invite the client to choose whether they will be sitting, or they stand or walk, or rest, and for how long. And I see this as parallel to, in a way, child-directed breastfeeding, where the body's own signals guide the rhythm of nourishment. In my work, play and creativity are not extra. They are considered the medicine. Create conditions not only for curiosity and creativity, but also for communion, using simple materials that are mindfully gathered from nature or from around the home, and where clients may build temporary altars, land sculptures, or improvise movement and sound in conversation with, say, the wind or the movement of the water. And I name the difference between this art making as process and the productivity culture. Art doesn't have to be good or finished. It just needs to be honest. And so this playfulness, low stakes making, is one way I counter the internalized colonial messages about worth and speed and control. So nature immersion is the backbone of my work. And when I meet with someone outdoors, or when I bring the outdoors into indoor spaces through materials and ritual, I invite the more than human world as a co-therapist. We might spend 10 minutes simply tracking the movement of the clouds or the rippling on the water before we ever touch art materials or speak. And I often will ask a client, if this land could speak your language, what might it tell you about what you are carrying? What might the land say? So this kind of questioning invites people into a kinship stance where land is knowing, is a sentient relative, not an inert backdrop. Neurodecolonization shapes the way that I structure sessions. I explicitly name and gently interrupt colonial habits of speed and perfectionism, disconnection from the body and extraction from the living world. We might begin by noticing internal dialogues. Don't waste time. Don't make a mess. How can this be important? And then interrupt and replace them by slowing down, by leaving more than we take, by making unfinished art and letting it be enough. And when those internal dialogues that can cause us discomfort or can be condemning, we can invite compassion and kindness to ourselves. So we listen longer than feels comfortable. And in this way, the nervous system can rehearse different patterns of safety and slowness, dignity and rest, belonging in relationship with more than human kin. And ethically, I anchor my practice in Indigenous relational ethics as I have been taught. Ethics as an accountable reciprocal relationship with ancestors and land, community, and future generations. So this means to me that I do not see my work as only a service to individual clients. I understand each session as part of a wider project of re-nesting, helping restore patterns of care that extend out into families, from the self into families, communities, and ecosystems. And in my work with others, with art and creativity and with nature, this looks like tending to how I show up in local ecologies, like my local community garden, how I honor lineages of knowledge in my research, and how I design offerings that invite people into mutual care rather than consumption. All of this, across all of this, I experience myself more as a host, supporting people in remembering how to feel held by the sentience of the living world as kin, how to listen to their own bodies as part of an earth body, and how to reclaim the relational capacities that the evolved nest describes as our birthright. When we begin to experience ourselves as necessary members of a living web rather than isolated individuals working on problems, our work, whatever that is, becomes a lived experience as intended from the beginning. As Lisa explained already, part of my work is meditation, and I look at that meditation as a type of neuroplastic activism for decolonizing consciousness. In my work across the lifespan nest, that is the evolved nest, extending through adulthood, working within the ecological nest, cultivating relationships and relations with land and other than human kin, and what I think of as our cosmic nest, our cosmological and spiritual embeddedness. I have embraced offering and sharing these guided meditations. And recent neuroscience reveals that indigenous wisdom traditions have long known that contemplative practices literally reorganize the brain, creating new pathways for understanding, problem solving, and creativity. It's like rearranging furniture in a room to open new flows of movement and light. And in this same way, meditation induces measurable neuroplastic change that can help break free from Eurocentric patterns of dominance. And in my practice of authoring meditations, I use my soft voice as a decolonial strength. In embracing my soft voice, what dominance culture dismisses as weakness, I've discovered that quiet leadership research, now what quiet leadership research confirms, that listening over speaking, humility over certainty, and collaboration over competition aren't soft skills, but they are survival skills. Contemplative leaders who cultivate inner stillness create a space described between stimulus and response, where we can choose response aligned with wisdom rather than react from colonial conditioning. I encourage you all to lean into your gifts too, no matter what others might say. So my guided meditations are not retreats, and they're not meant to be retreats from the world, but they are active participation in what some scholars call neuro-decolonization, the conscious practice of rewiring our brains away from the abstract, disconnected awareness imposed by colonization and toward the embodied relational consciousness that characterizes indigenous and pre-colonial ways of being. The evolvedness framework reminds us that humans evolved within a millions-year-old wellness-informed pathway of nestedness, a web of responsive relationships with caregivers, community, land, and cosmos. Meditation practice helps restore this nestedness by reducing stress hormones that damage the hippocampus and prevent neuroplastic growth, strengthening interconnectivity between brain networks responsible for self-awareness, emotional regulation, and executive function, and fostering the growth of new neural connections that support the receptive relational intelligence our ancestors knew. When I record guided meditations in my naturally soft voice, I am offering an invitation to what contemplative scholar Murray Beasley suggests each time we engage in one or another form of contemplative practice, we are reconnecting to humanity's pre-colonial consciousness. We are literally helping our nervous systems remember kinship, remember nestedness, remember that we belong to rather than dominate the living world. This is neuroplastic activism. This is how we rearrange the colonial furniture that has cluttered our collective consciousness for more than 500 years. And this work, quiet, gentle, and persistent, creates the neural foundations for the decolonial, regenerative futures we are called to build. So as we come to a pause after our exploration of my ways of weaving an evolved nest, where we have been engaging with ideas, thinking together and tracing concepts and expanding our cognitive understanding of how interbeing unfolds through relationship, care, and co-regulations. Now we'll shift our attention from the mind's way of knowing into the bodies, the hearts, and the imaginations. This next part invites us into a creative and contemplative space, a way of embodying the principles we have considered. So rather than analyzing connection, we'll experience it through this guided meditation that I would like to invite you to participate in now. It's about 10 minutes long. And it is an interbeingness with nature meditation where we'll sense into our place within the web of life, allowing awareness to soften and expand beyond thought into a felt reality of belonging. So Thich Nhat Hanh coined the word interbeingness, and this word points to the reality that nothing exists by itself independently. Everything only is, and through its relationship with everything else. He teaches that when we look at a flower, we look deeply into the flower, we see that it is made of many non-flower elements: petals, stamen, pistil, sepal, stem. They all were nurtured by sunshine, rain, and soil. The gardener, time, and the whole cosmos. And without these, there is no flower. If you take each component away, there would be nothing left. The flower is empty of a separate self because it only exists in interbeing with everything else. And this is our body. This is the way we blossom into life in this same way. So the purpose of this meditation is to invite connection with the living world and to honor our partnership with all living beings. So let's begin by settling in. I want to invite you to find a comfortable seat or a lying down position. And if you're seated, uncross your legs and place both feet on the floor. And let your hands rest gently. Your shoulders soften and your eyes come to a soft gaze. And if it feels comfortable, you can close them. Begin by noticing the breath. Feeling the air moving in and the air moving out. There's nothing to do, nothing to change. Let yourself arrive in this moment. Bring gentle awareness to your body, starting at the top of your head. Slowly scan downward and pause wherever you feel tightness. As you breathe in, imagine sending your breath into the tension. As you exhale, imagine a release. Notice, attend with the breath, and release. Take your time as you continue moving through your body. All the way to your feet and your toes. If emotions or sensations arise at any time during this meditation, come back to your breath, remembering that you are here now. And through the breath, you can bring nurture to your body, to your mind, and your heart. You are safely here in your noticing and attending. Take a slow, expanding breath. Feel the oxygen flowing into you from the living earth, trees, oceans, moss, and sky. Exhale gently and imagine your breath joining the wind, offering nourishment back to the living world. Sense this as a sacred exchange, a quiet conversation with the life spirit of nature. Begin to bring to mind an image or feeling of nature. Maybe a tree, stream, mountain, or the vast stillness of sky. Let your imagination wander. And feel the living presence meeting you here. With soft awareness, and if it feels true, offer a silent greeting or ask inwardly, how do you wish to be known today? What would you have me notice? Then listen without expectation. The listening itself is communion. As your breath expands, imagine gratitude in a radiant color flowing with each inhale around your heart. Through your blood and bones, infusing every cell. On your exhale, let gratitude move outward into the sky, through the trees, over the waters, into the very ground that supports you. Offer it to the cosmos, to the kin that surround you in seen and unseen forms. Imagine they are receiving your awareness. Take a few breaths here. Breathing in softly, breathing out softly. begin to allow your image of communion to gently drift to the background. But offer a part of that knowing, a place to reside in your being. Take one deeper breath in and a long, easy breath out. Notice how your body feels. Has something softened, brightened, or come alive? And bring your awareness back to the room and the place where you are, feeling your body supported by earth beneath you. Gently move, wiggle your fingers and toes, maybe roll your shoulders. And when you're ready, open your eyes or lift your gaze. As we begin to return from this meditation, you are invited to gently shift into a short time of journaling. You might take a few moments to write about what arose for you, what images or memories or feelings came forward, what you noticed about your experience. You could note where, if at all, you sensed this in your body. And how did that part of you feel as you stayed with it? And let your words arrive slowly without pressure to make sense or be polished. Just simply track the traces of the practice. We'll take a few moments here to just write. And if you are still writing and can come to a close in the next few moments, and I'd like to invite you all. I'm going to stop sharing screen and invite you all to share your thoughts and responses. Thank you.
I thought that was great. Thank you very much, Kathrine. We have a wellness group at our hospital, which is run by Zum Vo, who's Vietnamese, trained with Thich Nhat Hanh, and is a mindfulness teacher. And we do, once a week, we do what we call Thankful Thursday, where we do exactly what you just did. So I've been doing this once a week for years now, and it was great. But I really enjoyed your discussion about neuro-decolonization. Like, I'm working on decolonization. I think that's something that all of us are doing in some way or another. And I'm trying to wade my way through Ian McGilchrist's giant 2-volume book about why everything matters, about the right brain, which is fascinating. And that's what came to mind when you were talking about neuro-decolonization, about all of those colonial things are all very left brain. And during the meditation, I found that my brain was off, but my senses were on, and my body was relaxed, and my spirit was exploring. And I have a couple of places that I go regularly in my neck of the woods. One is in a forest where I have 2 particular trees that I commune with, and I go there in my mind very easily. I can just like be there almost instantly. and in other places on the beach where I take my dog to run, which I very much enjoy. But your last question, how does my practice help others? That's a question I've never asked myself before. So that's what I'm going to take away. That's a challenge. Thank you.
May I respond? Yeah. So this is a question about energetic presence to me and the way I understand love, gentleness, and care and beauty as being part of the invited entities to be with us. And so that energetic presence and that we can cultivate can become very important. And just want to respond to Lisa about this idea of rest. And I want to just support that as being a decolonial act in itself, is to allowing and inviting rest.
Lisa, if we have just one more minute, I wanted to share something briefly with Kathrine. I wanted to join the thank you. And for me, it was quite interesting. The feelings I went through were similar to those I feel when I practice cardiac coherence. That is release in the nervous system, but also a renewing sense of like it's more energizing than relaxing. So this is for me like connecting with nature energies. So I felt energized. And what I love about nurturing a connection with nature elements is that we can train to feel them more and more during the day in our normal activities and not just in dedicated times and spaces. So this is what I will take with me. I will take home about nature connection, like how to put seeds during the day to continue to nurture this connection on a like regular basis during the day. Yeah, thank you.
Regular restorative healing practices. We kept the regular part in there for the second component because we wanted to make sure we remembered, these incidents every now and then. And, in an indigenous kinship worldview, our rituals and ceremonies would have served this purpose for grounding and connection and maintaining our neurobiology with that of our kin and life. And we don't have those, but we have restorative healing practices. Well, I would like to hear the story while we're waiting to see if anyone has any more questions before we wrap up here our time together. You had said to me on the phone, we were talking about your voice and how incredibly special and unique and perfect your voice is for this work. And you had a little bit of a learning curve.
It's true. When I've worked in different venues and settings. And so in a corporate setting, my voice is, they say, no, don't let her talk now because of having a soft voice. When I'm in a group of people, I'll start saying something and they will talk right over me. And, I used to feel like if I heard a recording of myself talking, I'd be like, oh, I sound like a child, and telemarketers used to call on the phone when we all had house phones, and they would say, may I speak to your parent? Is your mother home? Or, so it didn't matter. It's like being curious and building a curiosity around, instead of feeling like and judging myself and being harsh on myself, that I said, well, wait a minute, let me continue to be curious about this and what can come of this, and noticing these things. And this is what I really would like to encourage you all to do, the same, with all of the different talents and ways of being that you are naturally in the world.
Tom has a question. Tom?
Well, I actually just have an appreciation I'd like to offer, and that is, Katherine, I love how you radiate an embodied, quiet leadership.
Yes.
And I so much appreciate it, especially now in the US, because we experience so much of the opposite.
Yes.
So much appreciated. Thank you.
Kathrine, what did you say in your presentation about these leadership skills of listening and softness?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so listening, or not being so apt to talk, but to be more apt to listen, and to listen longer than maybe even feels comfortable, to allow what may come next.
Yes, and you were saying these are not soft leadership skills. They're mistaken for soft leadership skills. Thank you so much. We are at the end of our time together, but I have recorded this and I'll share the full recording with everyone here, but I'll just post Kathrine's presentation for us in our on our Nested World site and in the Kindred newsletter coming out here shortly. Kathrine, I cannot thank you so much. I just can't thank you enough for providing this needed bridge, and between the theory and the praxis, and what does that really look like, and helping us to really get there with the neuro decolonization. I learned a lot of words today. I'm going to have to go make sure we put them into our Nesting Ambassador glossary. Thank you again. Thank you, Kathrine. Thank you, everyone, for coming.